Dambo, welcome to another episode of Young African and Proud. And today we are all the way in East Africa, yes, again, but this time around we're in Kenya and we are meeting an amazing woman who's an activist for gender and LGBTQ and a lot more. She is making waves and she's a voice that needs to be heard. And I'm glad that she honored our invitation and agreed to, share her story with us and as well as empower other women out there. Mercy Ndungu, welcome to Young African and Proud.
How are you, Chantel? How are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good too.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. I am so excited. I cannot wait to hear and learn from you.
I can't wait for us to do this session.
All right.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Well, let us get right into it. Can you please
Yeah.
tell us a bit about yourself? People that are wondering who is this amazing, this phenomenal young lady on the other side of the screen. What do you have to say to them?
Okay, so my name is Mercy Ndungu. I am a queer rights activist. I am normally in the human rights sector, but specifically in the LGBTQ rights. And I also play a big role in promoting feminism in my country. And I am a proud African.
I love that. I am a proud African. I love that because I think many a times as Africans, we sort of start belittling ourselves, we start judging ourselves, maybe because you come from whatever country that might not be economically strong. And I think Africa as a whole, when we look at the Western world, we are viewed as if most of the times, which is honest, we are viewed as if we are not competent, as if we are poor, as if there's just so many things wrong with us. So hearing you saying I'm a proud African, I love that. I love that. And it's something that I'm taking with myself moving forward to when I introduce myself. I'm a proud African.
Yeah.
Yes. So with the work that you do, especially, with human rights and the LGBTQ, do you mind just sharing a little bit more about that? Because I think in Africa, there's not so many people or women that actually have that voice to say, look, this is what I believe in and this is what I'm standing in. So can you please just share with us a little bit more about that?
So, growing up in this African society was both beautiful and brutal. And, there's a strong sense of community, of belonging, and of culture. But there's also deep rooted patriarchy that controls everything. Women are told to be quiet. Feminism is demonetized, and misogyny is very much normalized, and queer people. Oh man, where do I even start? We are a taboo. They don't want to have this conversation about us, right? They demonize us. They don't care about us. So when I got into activism, that was my main purpose to amplify, these voices, these marginalized voices. And when I say marginalized, I mean the voices of women, the voices of the LGBTQ community, And I grew up hearing that feminism was for bitter women, that, queerness was unnatural, that my world was tied to, how well I could serve men, right? But I also grew up watching the resilience of women. And one of my role models is my sister, Brenda. You know, I grew up um, watching her, fight. She was not an activist, but still how she acted, it really impacted me because her no meant no. She was fierce, you know, and men felt intimidated by her presence, and that really inspired me to get into this activism space. And, activism gave me a voice, because way too often Black women, we are, there's this common stereotype that we are loud, we are bitter, we are aggressive, right? And, this makes us go down. This makes us silent because we don't want to live up to this stereotype. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that I am loud, I am queer, I am a feminist, and I'm unapologetic about that. Thank you.
I am loving that. I am loving that. I'm like, yes, please. Yes, please. It's about time, that we all stand up and voice our opinions and voice things that we hold dear, because to be honest, as much as yes we can say that Africa as a whole, we have developed and everything else, and there are some countries that don't have as strict rules when it comes to the queer community, but other countries, especially when we go into rural communities, when we go to other countries that are not as developed when it comes to the queer community, many of the community actually, they're being discriminated against. They're going through horrific, all sorts of violation. And I love that at least you're standing up and you're saying, let's put an end to it. I am who I am. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be quiet about it. So well done. I am really moved by your initiative.
Yeah.
And not only do you participate in all these activities, you went on to open your own organization. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so I did open my own organization, and the name of my organization is Queer Kenya. And Queer Kenya started last year in 2024. And it started when in Kenya we had the End Femicide protests. I don't know if you heard about them, because of the rising cases of femicide, right? And at that
Hmm.
moment, I was like, when women are being violated, LBQ women, the lesbians, bisexual, and queer women, are being violated too. And they need a voice, especially in a country that homosexuality is illegal. You know, I felt like they needed a voice. And at that time, a queer woman was attacked somewhere in Kenya in a place called Pipeline. And, that really ignited a fire in me. I was like, how is this acceptable in the 21st century? Are we still attacking people for their sexuality? Are we still attacking people because of how they dress? This has to stop. So Queer Kenya was created for those reasons, to advance LGBTQ rights and to promote feminism. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
Amazing. And is homosexuality still illegal in Kenya?
Yeah, homosexuality is still illegal in Kenya, and facing up to 14 years in prison, for being a homosexual, right? But we have had wins, especially when it comes to our judiciary. They've really stood with us. Last year, we won a case in court where they granted us the freedom of expression, where we could associate, queer people would associate with other queer people, we could meet in public, and we could register our organizations. So, as much as we have had setbacks, we have had wins too. And, that really inspires me to continue, doing what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that you're not giving up, and your ancestors' proud child, if I can put it that way. Because if you
Yeah.
can look back in the history of Black women that stood up for what they believe, I'm sure they'll be like, yes, 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 yes. We're going to see that even in the 21st century, there are females that are saying, look, this is what I believe in.
Yeah.
And if you're saying that we all have freedom of expression and we all have these rights, then
Yeah.
why are you stopping me from believing what I believe in? Why
Mm.
are you believing my rights? So I think it's very important that there are platforms such as these that allows us to express ourselves. And I'm loving that you won the case in court. So well
Yeah.
done to you. And what are some of the challenges that you've faced with, the queer community, Kenya? What challenges have you faced from the community, from the public itself?
So Kenya, and not only Kenya, but Africa as a whole is very conservative. People always talk about the right-wing movement, especially in the Trump administration. But as I was telling my friend the other day, Africa is the OG right-wing. We were the right-wings before right-wings existed because we have always been very conservative, right? So we receive a lot of backlash from the church. They justify homophobia. We had a member of parliament last year that went into a public place and said that the society should kill the gays. And he justified that by saying the Bible and the Quran said so, right? And when he said that, an anti-LGBTQ movement was formed in the Coast Society of Kenya, in a place called Mombasa. The anti-LGBTQ movement was formed, and they were attacking people. If they suspected you are a homosexual, you were attacked. Right? A clinic that was catering towards the LGBTQ movement was attacked too in Mtwapa and was closed down. Uh, so we have had all of this. Our president, Mr. William Ruto, has gone into public and has shrugged off the possibility of legalizing LGBTQ. He has said that that is a non-issue, and that is a very dangerous narrative to spread, because when you say that LGBTQ rights are a non-issue, what you're doing is you are setting us up to be attacked, right?
Hmm.
So we have had that, especially the backlash from the society. A lot of queer people I know have been disowned by their parents. Again, this is a topic that is a taboo, right? How do you even approach an African parent and tell them, I am a woman who loves a woman? They'll think you're mad. And we have had what we call conversion therapy. You're taken to the church so that make you straight they can make you straight again, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, because how do you make someone straight again? So we have had that, and it is tough out here for a queer person.
Definitely.
And
Hmm.
it yeah, I my girlfriend when my girlfriend comes over to my place, my neighbors don't even know that I'm queer, because I wouldn't want them to know. I'd be setting up my girlfriend and I to be attacked. So what we do is you try to fit into this society, and that is very dangerous. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And once this video does go live, are you not worried about the impact that will have on your well-being?
Let me just say this. I have lived long enough. I'm just 23, but I feel like it's been long enough. I As much as there's danger ahead, I'm not really scared, because I need these stories, the stories I tell, to go out to that queer person who is somewhere, still closeted, still in fear of, coming out. And I'm not telling them to come out, because coming out in an African society, that's literally a death sentence. But what I'm saying is they should be themselves. you know Society tries to mold us into people that we are not. Society wants you to dress a certain way. Society wants to put your hair a certain way. Society wants you to marry a certain person. If it was up to society, I would be someone, I wouldn't even recognize myself. you know so I try as much as I can to be an inspiration to other queer folks in Africa. Tell them that that is yourself. I was in doubt. The first time I fell in love, and most people don't even believe this when I tell them, because the first time I fell in love, I was about 9 years old. I fell in love with a girl, and when I fell in love, I did not understand what that was. I knew I had feelings for the girl, and I was so young. Remember, we were in a society that was not talking about lesbians or gays. right? So I did not understand. It's not something that was taught in school. You know, the society around me was a husband and a wife, right? I never saw a wife and a wife or a husband and a husband, right? So when these feelings came on, when these feelings came and how I felt for this girl, I shrugged them off. I was like, this is not even normal. What are you doing? And it took a lot of time for me to discover my queerness. When I was 19 years old, that is when I had my queer awakening. That is when I couldn't fight these feelings anymore, you know? And I had to unlearn what society had taught me, you know? I had to know that what they are trying to mold me into is not who I am. I do not feel comfortable, right? So I started unlearning, and I believe one of the most important aspects in life is to unlearn,
Hmm.
So to that queer person at home watching that is still scared, and that is still shrugging their feelings off. Don't shrug your feelings off, you know. Just sit alone and listen to your feelings, and that is. I believe that is very important because that is when you discover yourself. Stop trying to fit into what society is telling you to be. That is not you. Yeah.
Wow, I am moved. I really am moved. And I
Yeah.
love how you're saying, how you actually, in other words, putting yourself out there, saying that yes, you do understand that, once we upload the video, that there are people in Kenya, or in Kenya particularly, because currently that's where you are, that might
Yeah.
see the video, and you do understand the consequences that might come with this. But you're
Mm,
here saying, this is my voice. And not only are you sharing your story, but you're also hoping to empower another person, another queer person in whatever African country, and saying, look, it's okay for you to have those emotions. It's okay for you to nurture those feelings. Don't suppress them. Get to understand where those emotions are coming from. And whenever you are ready to come out, whenever that is. Because I think also sometimes people feel pressured to come out. I'm having these emotions, then I need to
yeah.
quickly come out, and they
Mm,
might not put their safety into consideration, as you said yourself, that sometimes when your girlfriend does come over, it's not always easy for you to fully express yourself, because that will
yeah.
put you both in danger. So as much as, yes, that person is going to, nurture their feelings and come to terms with how they're feeling, they need to do it in a way that they feel safe as well. Because, as much as, yes, we are in the 21st century and we are hoping that, eventually, the whole world as a whole come to terms with understanding that we are all different. If we've got different skin colors, and we've got all these things that makes us different, such as our hair types, the color of our eyes, for example,
Yeah.
then we should be able to say, and there's different religions as well, right?
Yeah.
So then we should be able to also say, look, I am different as well sexually. And by you
Yeah.
saying I am different sexually, you are not starting a crime. By you saying
Yeah.
you are different sexually, you are not killing someone by you
Mm,
being different sexually. You're not bombing some other country or stabbing some person or stealing anything from anyone. That is something that has to do with you. Well, that's my personal opinion in all of this, but for me personally, I think that we should allow people to be who they are, as long as they are not causing any harm, they are not stealing from anyone, they're not
yeah.
causing any distress. There's no war that is starting somewhere. They're not bombing some country or shooting someone. You know, it's their decision to make. And who are we to judge? Who are we to judge anyone else? It's what makes them happy. Let's allow them to be happy. As human beings, we should be considerate, we should be caring, and shouldn't really, emphasize so much on how a certain person wants to express themselves. If I
Yeah.
want to wear my hair short and the other person wants to wear their hair long, and others prefer to have their hair braided, that's okay. And likewise,
Yeah.
if I do decide that I am attracted to men or women or both, it's something that has to do with me. Now, who are
Yeah.
you to judge me for that? When the Bible itself reminds us that, we shouldn't judge. And this is me saying this as a Christian as well. And I understand that there might be a lot of backlash that might come my way because I'm saying this from a point of being a Christian. But for me, as much as yes, I'm a Christian and I understand and I've read and I understood the Bible, where I am standing in this, as a Christian, as a child of the earth, as a child of the universe, all I'm saying is that we are different. Let's all live in peace. Leave the judging to God. God didn't give us the power or the authority to judge. Even our
Yeah,
Bible says that thou shalt not judge. And that if we are to judge, then we are also going to be judged. God is also going to judge us for judging. So who are we to judge? And
yeah,
I'm really hoping and pleading that we stop killing the queer community and we are more kinder, and let's get to understand where they're coming from,
yeah.
instead of judging and being in a position where we want to play God, because we are not God. We didn't create ourselves. But if we can move forward and maybe talk about the Black Woman Diaries, what is that all about?
So, Diaries of a Black Woman. Um, I had felt like my experiences, my pain and my struggles and my identity were invisible. I grew up again in a patriarchal African society. I was taught that a woman should be silent, that endurance was a virtue, and that, speaking up made you a problem. And I was tired of that silence. And I started doing this series on my LinkedIn of Diaries of a Black Woman, to talk not only about my experiences but the experiences of an African girl, right? This this is a continent that has time and time allowed FGM, female genital mutilation, to take place, right? And it's very wrong. This is a continent that has allowed early childhood marriages. And in the name of culture, they justify that by saying that this is our culture. They don't realize how much this traumatizes women. This is a society that, justifies rape. Let me tell you a story. When I was young, I went to a relative's place. And when I went to that relative, when I went there, I was, I think, about 7 years old, and I had a shot. I had one shot, I had shots on. So this relative came up to me and they were like, "Don't wear that in front of my husband." Remember, I'm 7 years old.
Mm.
They are telling me that I shouldn't wear that shirt in front of their husband because their husband will take that as seduction. A 40-year-old man finds a 7-year-old in shorts attractive. So now I have to wear a dress so that I can accommodate his sick mind, right? Which is which is crazy. And I have seen these stories play out in real time where a child is raped by their relative, and what happens is there's no action taken towards the relative. There's an organization in Kenya called Usikimia that fights for, women and children, and they had a case last year of a child. I think a 5-year-old child who was raped by their uncle. And what happened was the father of the child kicked out the 5-year-old child, and said that, he didn't want the child anymore. And the the father justified this by saying that this child was taught by their mother to seduce men. A 5-year-old, what does a 5-year-old know about seduction, right? And this is very much normalized. When it comes to rape in the African culture, this is a conversation we don't want to talk about. There's that creepy uncle that is always lacking, that is always invited to every party. The whole family knows what this man does. You know, they know how many children he's raped, but he's always invited to every event, and they don't want to have that conversation. When you speak out and you say, "This man did this to me," what do? They tell you to be silent. They tell you you don't expose family secrets. You know? You don't talk that way. He's still family. This is what they say. He's still family at the end of the day. That is what they say, and it's sick, very sick. So Diaries of a Black Woman was my way of telling all these stories, right? Calling out patriarchy, the system that has been set up against women, calling out FGM, calling out all these injustices, calling out domestic violence. As a child who grew in a very violent household, that was very much needed, for me to speak out, because this is something that traumatizes me up to date. So, at the end of the day, it was more of amplifying the voice of an African girl. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I'm loving all the challenges that you went through,
Mm.
growing up. I can only imagine, what that must have felt for you. But for me, what really stands out is that you went through all this, challenges, and not only did you allow yourself to define you, you were like, okay, I went through these challenges, but I'm choosing to learn from them. And not
Yeah.
only am I learning from them, I'm choosing to voice them and share with the world what happened to me. And not only am
Mm.
I sharing with the world what happened to me, I'm also hoping to inspire other young girls and inspire other women out there. Because what you said about a family member, that we all know that this family member, is touching the young girls, it's true. Whether we
Mm.
want to cite him to family gatherings where there are young girls, where, these young girls are put in a position where, he might do the same thing. Why
Mm.
are we not excluding him, for example? Why are we not putting an end to it? Why are we not seeking legal assistance to put an end to what he's doing? Because now
Mm.
what we're doing is we're having a chain of all these young girls in our families that are going to become women that are violated by this one person. But here we are, we're witnessing it, but we're not protecting them. you know and I really think that your story is very powerful. And I love how also you're using social media, the social media platform, to voice your opinion, to bring change and tell your story. Because I think many a times different social media platforms are used for different reasons, and most of the times wrong reasons, to be honest. And maybe you can walk with us in the dark side of social media, because I'm
Yeah.
sure that's also one of your speciality. And maybe before I say anything about that, let's give you a chance to share with us, what you have witnessed, especially being a social media guru.
One of the things I've witnessed is bullying.
Mm.
You have to look a certain way so that social media can like you, right? I see women going over the top in social media, making their skins light, um, wearing certain clothes and all that. But I don't blame the women. I blame how social media has portrayed women. I blame how. So in Kenya, if you dress a certain way, if you dress what is labeled as modesty, in Kenya, we call you a kienyeji. A kienyeji means someone who is still has that village mentality, right? Someone who's not what I call westernized, right? And when you're a kienyeji, you are ridiculed in Kenya. So when I'm ridiculed for being a kienyeji, what will I do? And another thing is colorism. You are a black woman with a dark skin tone. What happens? You're not enough for them. They
Mm.
don't like you. You are too dark. They'll call you charcoal. They'll call you darkness. Right? Those are the names they call women. They call you pots and all that. Just like we saw with one of our celebrities called Elsa Majimbo, who is very much liked in South Africa. But in Kenya, she's not liked at all. And the reason why, it's because she's dark skinned, right? They ridicule her for the color of her skin. So what happens to, women who are ridiculed that way? They want to lighten up their skin so that they can fit in this mold that society and social media wants to place them in, you know? when I wear when I wear a certain way, I will be ridiculed. So what will I do? I'll wear a short skirt the next time, I post on Instagram so that I can fit, in that mold. And then it's funny because society is never satisfied and social media is never satisfied with whatever you do, because they'll still ridicule you. When you let your when you lighten up your skin, what they'll do is they'll start using that against you. Oh, why did you lighten up your skin and all that? And they'll start ridiculing you for the same reason, and you're like, what do you want from me? When I start wearing a short skirt, I'll start, I don't know if I can say this here, but maybe you edit this out if it's not appropriate, but you'll start being called a hoe and all that. You'll be called names. But then you're like, when I dressed well, when I dressed into what, into what you call modesty, you ridiculed me. You made me dress this way. Now that I'm dressing this way, you are still ridiculing me. What do you want from me? Because social media, social media, they it's like people have normalized negativity, and that is one of the things I've faced. You know, I am a fierce feminist, and I was using X, formerly known as Twitter, a few months back, and I was, talking about feminism and all that, and I was ridiculed. I was shredded into pieces because feminism is vilified, right? They believe that that feminists hate men. They believe that when I call out patriarchy, I'm saying men should be weak, you know, because first of all, they are not enlightened enough to know that when I talk about feminism, I'm talking about equality. I want what's better for women. If you are a man, you are earning $2,000 per month, and you have the same qualifications as a woman, why is that woman earning $1,000? You know, what I want is equality. But then when I do that, you think that I want that man to be fired and the woman to be replaced, which is very sad. And I was ridiculed for that. You try explaining, they don't want to listen. And at the end of the day, you realize there's something that has come up on social media that is called the incel movement. The incel movement means men who hate women, right? The incels on Twitter don't like women at all because, okay, if you want me not to speak about feminism, I won't. I'll speak about what you want me to do, but of what you want me to speak about. But when I do, you will still ridicule me. And when you look at this deeply, you realize I am not the problem. You are the problem because you hate women so much. You cannot stand the fact that a woman is speaking up. In Kenya, we have a woman called Mother Karua, a very famous politician. And I love Mother Karua so much. She's fierce and she's called the Iron Lady. So Mother Karua wanted to be a president, right? So someone wrote on Twitter, what if we put Mother Karua in power? And then the man started saying, no, we should not be led by a woman. You know the stories we hear from the past when women ruled, they were sitting on men's backs and all that, and all those stories. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? So you're now admitting it wholeheartedly that you don't like women. And then they'll say, oh, she did this, she did that. But then I'm like, your president has done very questionable things there, because in Kenya we have been ruled by 4 men, all of them corrupt to the core. But then you will not call out that. You have not even given this woman a chance, but you're not saying this. You know, when it comes to things like, so one of the things, the Maputo Protocol, if you remember it, that was in 2003, that was, supposed to that was supposed to advance women's rights and all that. One of the things was to implement the to that gender rule in countries where women should have a place in cabinet, there should be a certain number of women. Kenya is one of the countries that has refused to implement such, and when you listen to the society, they are comfortable with it. They're like, why should a woman be there? She's not qualified and all that. And then you are like, okay, let me show you evidence that they are qualified. Now when you show them that the woman is qualified, they'll start revealing their true colors, because they start saying, when women are more educated than men, they'll now come and try to make men weak. And I'm like, what kind of mentality is that? you know
Hmm.
Social media is a very dark place for
Hmm.
a woman. So what I've done with social media is I found my tribe. And I only use LinkedIn. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on X. I deleted my accounts there. I am now on LinkedIn, and I found my tribe there by each and every of my connects. They are involved in the human rights sector. I don't want any outsiders, because now it comes with a lot of bullying, and that is the last thing I need. I don't want to feed into the negativity. I've gone through so much trauma in my life that the last thing I need is for a man to tell me that I cannot be a leader because I'm too qualified. That when I get into power, I'll make men weak. What kind of reasoning is that? So that's why just LinkedIn, because LinkedIn gave me a safe space. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear that you found your home, with LinkedIn. And I can
Yeah.
relate to what you're saying because I'm toxic. However, I am loving, again, you're very resilient. And for me, your resilience is just firing me up. Your resilience really is just firing me up. And I really hope that another person, whether male or female, that's listening to this, but especially our young girls, that they
Yeah.
are fired up within themselves and they do not let whatever experience that they've went through define them, but they're able to learn from that. And hopefully also just be the change that they want to see in the world and learn from it. So if there's
Yeah.
someone listening and they're thinking, wow, I am inspired, I am motivated, and I would want to assist Messi, I would want to collaborate with Messi, be it someone in Kenya, or wherever they are in the world, and they want to get hold of you. What would you say that you need assistance with right now for your different organizations and what you're standing for? How can they best assist you?
Um, so how they can assist me is, first of all, through collaboration, because we have, as Queer Kenya, we have a lot of projects coming up that we really need assistance with. We want to place queer folks on safe houses, right? And we can't do that alone. So we need a lot of resources. And if anyone is interested, they can, at the end of the interview, I will mention my emails and my LinkedIn profile where they can reach out to. So we need a lot of resources for these upcoming projects. And at the end of the day, this is for the queers, or as I say, for the gays. By the gays, of the gays, and for the gays. So, because again, Kenya is very homophobic, right? A lot of people are rejected by their families. So a lot of queer folks are homeless. I have the privilege of working from home. Most of the queer folks don't. When you're not working from home, you're commuting to work daily. First of all, your dressing code is questioned. When you speak a certain way, you are questioned, right? Most of the queer folks are not even employed. No one wants to employ someone who dresses a certain way, right? Um, no parent, most of the parents in Kenya, they don't want a queer child, right? Um, so we have all these factors that is leading to queer folks being homeless, and they don't have a safe place. It's not like they'll go and tell the government and the government will take action. The government will never take action. The government doesn't care about the gays, right? when it comes to something like refugee rights, we have refugees coming from Uganda. You saw last year, Uganda enacted one of the harshest anti-LGBTQ bills in the world. You know, that it's a death sentence now in Uganda for being queer, for being gay, right? And we have most of those refugees coming to Kenya. But the country that they are coming to seek refuge does not even respect the international rights, that are guaranteed to refugees, you know. So these refugees are not even given papers to go to places like Kakuma, the Kakuma camp and all that. And even if they go to Kakuma, the folks in Kakuma, the refugees in Kakuma, live in one of the worst conditions ever. So now, when these refugees come to Kenya, they are stranded, somewhere in the border, or maybe in Nairobi. They now sleep on the streets, and no
Hmm.
one to take them in. You know. So now, there needs to be a solution. There needs to be a long-term solution, and right now we are seeing the world is leaning more towards the right wing, which means a lot of countries are not accepting refugees. We could say, if it was 5 years ago, we could have said, let's take these people to the United States. Let's take these people to Germany, right? Because these countries respect LGBTQ rights, but now it's very different. So now, if a person moves from Uganda, they'll come to Kenya. And we, as the queer organizations, we cannot even take them somewhere else. So now they have to stay in Kenya, and they need to live in good conditions. We need to make sure that these people have papers so that they can start earning, you know? But when we have a country that doesn't respect rights, a country that does not respect its constitution, a constitution that it passed, international rights that it ratified, a country that claims to be democratic but does not respect the art of democracy. It's very disgusting. So now, as a queer person who has a queer organization, it is my responsibility, to take care of, my queer brothers and sisters. So that's why we are starting this. We're still on the starting stages of this program where we can place the queer folks. We can place them in homes, in safe houses. We can make sure they have the papers. We can make sure that these people are earning a living, you know, and they're living in good condition. So yeah,
Wow, I am moved. I am really moved. And for me, I think it shouldn't even get to a point where another person has to leave their country of origin just because
mm,
of their sexuality. It shouldn't even get there. And
yeah,
if it gets to that, then why must they go to a different continent, yet Africa is their home? You know,
yeah,
so there's a lot that we need to do as a continent. There's a lot that we need to do before even we can say as a continent or even as a world, there's a lot that we need to do as a country, as different African countries. And there's also a lot that we need to do as human beings. There's a lot that we
mm,
need to do within ourselves. There's a lot of that we need to do as leaders. Because as a
mm,
leader, you can't say, well, because I'm a leader, I am going to say no to this person because they look this color, they are this race, they decide they want to be this sexuality, because that's
yeah,
not what it is about, right? It's
mm,
about accepting people for who they are. And again, as long as anyone is not harming any other person or causing harm in any way or form, let's allow them to be themselves. We were not
yeah,
created to judge. We are not meant to it. We all have opinions, but before you share your opinion, just take some moment to self-reflect, and take a moment to also observe in what has been happening in the world and ask
yeah,
yourself if this is the world you want your child to grow up in.
mm,
A world where your child's rights are, even though they have been implemented rather, but those rights are not being respected by our leaders, by ourselves as members of the community and members of this earth. I think we can definitely do better. All right.
Yeah.
So if they want to get hold of you, how can someone get hold of you?
So my email address is ngatiali5@gmail.com. And Ngatia is spelled as Ngatia, LEE5 at gmail.com. And then my LinkedIn is Mercy Ndungu. So yeah.
All right. We'll also just make sure that we edit at the bottom of our video link so that they can also be able to access your information. And what words of encouragement? I know you've shared so much. You've encouraged us. You've motivated us. I feel all fired up right now. But to
Yeah.
someone else that's listening, whether they're male, whether they're female, but especially as well as the gay community, what do you have to say to them? Or rather, the queer community, what do you have to say to them?
What I'd say is, when it comes to human rights, that is not a privilege. You know, that is a demand. We are demanding, for our rights to be respected. And no one should make you feel should make you feel like you're wrong for fighting for your rights. Fight for your rights. Be loud. To the black woman that is told that they are loud, that they are aggressive, that they are bitter, when your rights are violated, be all that they're saying, right? They want to silence us so that they can oppress us. There is power in silence, because silence enables oppression. So don't be silent. Call out the human rights violation. It's the little things that happen when your dad is beating up your mom. You know, that's a human right violation. And I understand we might not have that courage, especially when we're young. But now that we know better, that we know this is wrong, call it out. You know, when you are in your village and you see a young girl, a 12-year-old girl, is being married off to an older man, call that out. That is pedophilia. That is not culture, that is pedophilia. Every child should be going to school, right? And until they have reached the age of consent, it is very wrong for older men. And in other cases, we even have older women who take advantage of young boys. That shouldn't happen, right? We, you can marry them when they're in their 20s, but not when they're teenagers. That is very wrong. So be loud, you know, um, call out human rights violation. And at the end of the day, you will see change, because the change that we so much crave for. But when it comes to issues like corruption and all that, we always say we wish we had a leader who was not corrupt. But it all starts from the bottom. It all starts to you as an individual. Be that change that you want to see. And when there is oppression, please call it out. That is what I'd advise them. Yeah.
Thank you. And for me, I think it's what stands out is that, in a nutshell, all you're saying is human rights is a basic need. It's not a luxury, it's a basic need. And if your basic need is being violated, then you have every right to say, listen, you are violating my basic need. It's my basic right, and it has every right to be respected. So well done to you, for just sharing that with us and having such an amazing stand when it comes to, human rights. And I'm really praying that the organization and your initiatives continue to be blessed. May this recording or this conversation reach the right person. And I pray that when people watch our conversation today, may they have a change of heart. May they have a change of heart, especially when it comes to the queer community, especially when it comes to human rights. But well, that's something I guess we can always, if we to get into that, we can never stop talking about that because there's a lot happening. But overall, please do have a change of heart. And before you comment on anything, be it this video, be it anything else you watch moving forward, Be mindful because your words have power. And as Mercy shared, now she's not active on X anymore because of the words that were said to her, because of things that people said to her. And it shouldn't be like that. It should never be like that, where, people stop being themselves because other people are choosing not to be mindful when it comes to the things they do or things that they say. All right, so Missy, you had a task for us. We asked you to showcase yourself by coloring in your portrait. And I'm hoping that maybe you can also help us design a logo for the queer community.
I'll definitely do that, and I want to get a hold of a printer so that I can color that portrait. As I told you, that portrait is way deeper, way deep than you think. You know, it represents the struggles. When I saw it, the first thing I thought was, when I color this, I'm going to represent what I feel as a woman, and especially as a queer Black woman. So it's way deep than you think. And I love that you're giving us that freedom of expression. Thank you
I'm
so
loving
much.
that.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I'm loving that that's how you feel and it resonates within you. And being our first queer guest, on the show, and as well as, your experience with social media and designing. She shared some amazing designs with me that I'll also share with you on our different social media platforms. But I think, above all, we will be honored if you can also just design something for the queer community. So for guests that come to the show and they feel like, yes, there is a Duke, but they don't really relate to the Duke. Yes, we've got the hijab, but they don't really relate to the hijab. Let's
Yeah.
give them another option to relate to themselves because the purpose of the show is just being young and African and being proud. And by us saying we are young, African and proud, and we do not include the queer community, whereas they are also Africans and members of our community, then we're not standing up for what we believe in. So please do share with us your designs, and we're looking forward to the design as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you so much for giving me this platform to amplify my voice. I really
It's a
appreciate.
pleasure. We're looking forward to having you again when you
Yeah.
do share with the audience the reason behind your design,
Yeah.
for the queer community as well. And thank you for the work you do. And again, my prayer is and my wish is that, that your voice may never be silenced. And no matter whatever backlash you might get, may you continue to be resilient. I pray for blessings and blessings and blessings, wisdom, strength, and guidance